Blade Runner 2049.
If this is our future, we're screwed. Alright guys, so this week we saw Blade Runner 2049, starring Ryan Gosling and your man Harrison Ford.
It's directed by Denis Villeneuve, and this movie takes place 30 years after the original Blade Runner. There's still a lot of Blade Runners around in the future. It's just 30 years advanced, and I don't really want to give you away the plot because the plot's awesome, and they didn't disclose in the trailers that much. But let's just say Ryan Gosling discovers something, and he has to find Harrison Ford, who plays Deckard, and he was in the original. So he has to find him, and then he's got to enjoy it from there.
So I saw the original Blade Runner a while ago, about a year or two ago, and I loved it. I know it's a really philosophical movie. It's a very mentally stimulating movie, more than just an action movie or anything like that. So I was really excited for this.
So I was really excited for this movie also. I'm actually a huge fan of Denis Villeneuve. I think that's how you pronounce his name. He's a great director, and he has rarely missed a beat. Sicario, Arrival, he's an awesome director. And believe it or not, I've never actually seen the original Blade Runner. I did watch it before seeing the new one, and I thought it was a good movie. Nevertheless, it had flaws, I think, but I thought it was good. And I was excited to see this one. It just looked like a really good movie, and I'm a huge fan of the director and the cast. I'm a huge fan of Ryan Gosling. So this movie just looked awesome, and I was really excited to see it as well. So overall, I thought this movie was incredible. I think this is one of the sci-fi masterpieces of this decade. I thought this was an incredible movie. I don't know about you. I loved it. I don't know what you thought about it as much.
I thought it blew me away. It was absolutely amazing from start to finish. Yeah. Everything from the writing, the directing, the sound design, everything that had to be in this movie paying homage to the original was there, and it built on it perfectly.
Every aspect, I felt like, in this movie had full effort into it. The directing, the writing, the acting, the visual effects alone. You could just go to this movie with no dialogue and just look at the visual effects. I mean, every aspect of this movie was so good. And I can't wait to talk about it more. We're going to get into depth a little bit in this movie because I feel like there's a lot to talk about here. So the main part of this movie that I really loved was the writing. So in the first movie, it had some good questions raised about humanity and stuff. And this movie does it even more, especially with Ana de Armas' character and Ryan Gosling's character. Those two, I'm not going to spoil their characters, but what those two do bring out a lot of questions about humanity. But furthermore and overall, this movie has a lot more to it than the first one, I think. This movie has more than just Blade Runners tracking down replicants. This has a lot to say about humanity, a lot more. The plot in this movie is way more developed, I think, than the first one. The first one is a simple concept, I think. He's trying to track down replicants, but also behind that it had elements about humanity and stuff. This one has all that, but the plot is way more complicated, but it does it in a good way. The storytelling in this movie is brilliant. I loved it. And the movie ends and sort of like you're satisfied, but also leaves questions to be raised. So this movie satisfied everything with being entertaining, having a good plot, while also raising questions and leaving the theater thinking about something.
Yeah, and that's what I feel like this movie did perfectly. The directing is phenomenal. The writing is superb. The visual effects are absolutely stunning throughout. And the thing that really stands out to me about this movie is I feel like it really is art. It's something that's made for so much more than just to be entertainment. It's meant to be a question about the philosophy of life and who you are and what makes you that person. And that to me is one of the major reasons that this film succeeds on every level.
All right, now let's talk about the technical stuff. I mean, this movie, it can't be beat. I mean, just the setting alone and the production design of California in this time period is so well done. And it's very similar to the original Blade Runner. That was amazing for that time period on what they did. And I think this movie just improved upon that.
Yeah, the whole production team did a phenomenal job of capturing the feel of that nuclear wasteland, that sort of very dead earth situation, that scenario, that set piece. And it was just... It has that perfect effect of keeping you in the movie the whole time. And that's one of those things that I noticed immediately about halfway through this movie is that sometimes I'll go into a movie and I'll be thinking about things, I'll be analyzing things. I went into this movie with the intent to review it, and I was completely lost in the movie throughout the entirety of it. And that to me is just amazing.
Yeah, for sure. When I was watching this movie, I felt immersed in this universe. I felt immersed in this world. This movie does that perfectly. I mean, they show things that are just... that could happen in the future that you just immersed in, you automatically get hooked into. Yeah. And it was awesome.
One thing in this movie that really stood out to me, that's a category of criteria for me when I score movies, was the soundtrack. It was phenomenal. It was Hans Zimmer at his finest, and I was amazed. I usually can tell when Hans Zimmer scores a piece He uses very specific instrumentation. He uses a lot of the same intervals when he's writing pieces to get that really cinematic feel. And in this movie, he completely threw that out the window, used a ton of incredible synthesized effects, a lot of crazy digital orchestral things, and it's gripping throughout the whole of the movie because you get that feel that you're in this setting and that's what you would hear just walking around the street.
Yeah, I didn't know it was Hans Zimmer either, and I was surprised to find out that it was scored by him because this music was really cool. It was very futuristic. I thought it fitted the subject matter very well, and it was done perfectly. Like that was one of my favorite parts of the movie was the music. I mean, in the theater, I think they really increased the volume on the music.
Oh yeah,
the seats were vibrating. We didn't see it in IMAX or anything. It was normal, standard, and it was awesome. I went home and I got the soundtrack. I loved it. It was one of the best parts of the movie for me, especially in the technical aspect of it. So as most of you know, Denis Villeneuve directed this movie, and this movie just puts him farther up the rankings of one of the best directors working today. I mean, he directed this movie really well. He really takes a good futuristic take on it. He did similar to what Ridley Scott did in the original Blade Runner with that aspect. And there's not a lot of action in this movie. It's not an action movie, but when there is action, I thought he directed it very well too. I mean, and the acting is good. He directed the actors' emotions very well. I mean, he did a good job. I mean, there wasn't really a flaw in the direction at all. And also with the directing, the cinematography was very good in this movie too. I love the cinematography. It was awesome. A lot of the colors they used are very good. It was just a good looking movie along with good directing. It was flat out, it was just a well directed movie.
So the acting in this movie was spot on for what it needed to be. The people who needed to be serious and dark and grim were definitely like that. The people who needed to be kind of questionable, you don't know who they were definitely fitting that role as well. Ryan Gosling, there's something that sets him apart from all the other characters in this world, and he really plays that part perfectly. Harrison Ford, he's an all-star guy. He's an all-star actor. He'll always deliver, and he does, being this old, decrepit man that he is at this point in the series' timeline. And Jared Leto was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, this dude, I saw him as the Joker in Suicide Squad. No good. But this dude, A+. Nice job, Jared. Yeah, but so all that acting goes in to formulate a style, which corroborates with the visuals, like McGregor talked about. And it's this perfect balance of visuals combined with the setting. The director and the producers use a very specific color palette. They use different shades of different colors to give you this contrast between this really high-tech neon world and this really just crappy, demoralizing outskirts of this city, and it works perfectly.
Overall, I love this movie. This movie was awesome. I think it actually is a masterpiece. I think the plot was good, the writing, the directing, the acting, the visual effects, like I said before, that aspect was amazing. The sound, everything about this movie was good. There wasn't a single flaw that I found in this movie. I had a great time with it. It was a good movie, had a good message, made you leave the theater thinking about it. It expanded upon the world set in Blade Runner, the original 1982 version. I'm going to give this movie a 10 out of 10.
And for me, this movie had everything a movie should have and so much more. The acting was phenomenal. The writing was phenomenal. The directing was out of this world, quite literally. The visual effects were just stunning through and through. The sound design really is one of those things that can really make a movie for me, and this definitely did that. The only gripe I had with it was just you really have to think about this movie. You have to think about the plot and what's going on, and that's a commendation to the writing. It's so well scripted that you really have to think about what's going on, and it really makes you question things in your life. And that, to me, is why this movie, to me, is truly art. So with that being said, I give this movie a 10 out of 10.
So that gives our average score for this movie a 10 out of 10. We talked about everything we could without spoiling the movie, and I think we've decided we will do a spoiler review for this.
Yeah, because it's hard to talk about everything going on because the plot is so crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So
there's a lot to dig deep into this movie, I think, and we will go in depth, hopefully, and it'll be fun. I can't wait to talk about it more.
Yep. All right, guys, so that's our Blade Runner 2049 review. Did you see the movie? Let us know what you think. Do you have any comments about the channel? Ways we can improve it? Let us know.
Thanks for watching.